Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. Yeah. Welcome. We're going to start with some music, get our lives warmed up and connected. I am grateful for this day, for the love we share, the life we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. I am grateful for this day, for the love we share, the life we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. I am grateful for this day, for the love we share, the life we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. I am grateful for this day, for the love we share, the life we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. Yes, the love of God is here. Yes, it is. Yeah. Please welcome Jamel Morris up for our announcements. Come on, Jamel.
Grand afternoon. I am grateful to be here with you all today. Hello, I am Jamel Morris, and I serve on the Creative Arts team. We have so many great opportunities to connect, grow, serve, and give here at SLCA. For more information about today's announcements and other opportunities, please scan the QR code found on the monitor. Visioning is vital to the sustainability of SLCA, and Reverend Jean, today at 5 p.m., right over here, this young lady, she will lead our community in a vision for SLCA. This opportunity takes place every second Sunday, and we would love for all of you to join in. Are you curious about certain spiritual practices but have few opportunities to discuss it with like-minded people? Next Sunday during our 5 o'clock hour, we will continue a monthly discussion group exploring topics that may be hard to discuss with your friends or family. This is one of the most popular workshops, so if you have not joined in yet, please check it out. SLCA practitioner Tony Jenkins, raise your hand, Tony. There he goes. Tony Jenkins is ready to answer any questions. Join us and let's talk about it. Connect with other SLCA members as well as members of UUCA during our monthly game night. Bring your favorite snack and join us for a wonderful night of fun, fellowship happening in the social hall at 7 p.m. on November the 22nd. Please mark your calendars. Mark your calendar now and plan to attend the SLCA Gratitude Dinner after service on November 24th. This is a wonderful opportunity to invite a friend. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to visiting you after service in the social hall for food and fellowship. Remember, you belong. Have a great one.
Thank you, Jamel.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I am David Alexander. I'm the spiritual director here. My pronouns are he and his. Welcome to Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. Welcome everybody watching online on Facebook and YouTube Live. I want to let you know a couple of things about today. We got some extra things added into the service today to kind of tend to our hearts and our spirit as we move through this. This is November. We're starting a new series today. The series is called The Sacred Dance. It's really ultimately will be about gratitude and abundance and all those beautiful spiritual principles, but I'm so glad we adjusted the title just a little bit to The Sacred Dance because, we're always dancing with life, and sometimes it takes some interesting steps Sometimes the beat gets a little off. Sometimes we have some interesting dance partners. And so all of that lends to some metaphor about perhaps where we find ourselves today. Amen? So let's do our affirmation. And well, let me first say, if you're visiting us today or checking us out for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're here. Please make yourself available to our ushers and greeters. You'll get to see them later in the service and know who they are after the service. Just make yourself available to them after the service, and they'll give you some information about our community. Also have all of our information on our website, slca.com. It tells you about our beliefs and our history and where we've been. We're 45 years in the greater Atlanta area, and our global organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, and all of that good stuff. Lots of good information there. All right, so today let's do our affirmation, and then we will move into some special things for today. This month's affirmation is this: I am open and receptive to the limitless abundance of the universe. I attract prosperity, success, and joy with ease and gratitude. My life overflows with wealth in all of its forms, and I am grateful for the blessings that flow to me daily. Let's take a deep breath, and let's affirm that together with one voice. I am open and receptive to the limitless abundance of the universe offers. I attract prosperity, success, and joy with ease and gratitude. My life overflows with wealth in all of its forms, and I am grateful for the blessings that flow to me daily. And so it is. And so it is. And so, today, I imagine that many of us are probably carrying some extra emotional weight with us into the room. And there's a temptation to find quick fixes and quick answers to those things, to resolve them in our being, and some of that is appropriate so that we can get up and do what we need to do. And sometimes it's also equally appropriate to just presence those things. And so as a spiritual community, what I want to do today in light of the election is to really establish us as a safe space. What I know is this: there's lots that I don't know right now. I'll just say that. But what I do know is this: we need each other, and we need communities that are safe spaces, right? Safe spaces of belonging, safe spaces of inclusion, safe spaces that affirm our divinity and all of the diverse ways that it shows up in our humanity and our sexuality and our expressions, and in whatever ways that those identities either now or may be under threat in any way. It's important to have places where they're affirmed and acknowledged and protected. And we are one of those places, and that is one of the ways that makes us who we are as a spiritual community. And so it's important to establish ourselves in that energy. And so with that, what I want to do today is, did they already get cards when they came in? Or no, we're going to hand them out. Okay, so you're going to get a card, or maybe a few cards. That's good. And different colors. And so you take one. If you want to take multiple, you can. But I'd like to invite you, and online as well, if you're watching online, you can do this as well. Right now, just have maybe an extra sheet of paper to write down any thoughts, emotions, feelings that are either present for you right now or have been strongly present for you since election night. And to just write those down, whatever they are, positive, negative, overwhelming, scary, whatever emotions, how they feel for you. Just write them down. And don't write them for online. Don't write them in the chat yet. I'll give you an opportunity to do that a little bit later. And if you want to take a moment and think about that, you can do that. We're going to do something with these a little bit later in the service. So there's no rush. Be with it and just say, right when I found out, what was present for me? What was the first thing that came to my mind? What was the first thing that came to my heart? What have I been aware of since then? Right? Is this making sense? Everybody with me? Everybody got something? And again, if you want to sit with it for a minute or two, you can do that, because we'll do something a little bit later in the service, but we're going to pass out the cards now and give you an opportunity to write. And then a little bit later, we'll presence them with us. So again, I think it's just really important as community that we presence what is really going on for us in a real and authentic way, and that's what we're wanting to do with this today. So take a moment to do that, and the service will move on from here, okay? Thank you for being here today. Let's have a great service. Amen? Next.
Open your mind, unfold your heart, relax your senses, feel every part. You ain't got a thing to fear, looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Breathe every breath. Release your cringe. Love without waiting, slowly unhinge. You ain't got a thing to fear, looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down, go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound.
All right, here we go. Let's try it again. Let's just take a moment to breathe and take the holy breath that made man a living being and let it just permeate through us. Let it calm us. Let us keep us grounded. And know this with me. There's a lot of uncertainty, but I am certain of this. There is one God. There is one thought, one source. And I know whose I am. And I know my source. And I know that I am protected. And I know that I am loved. That I am blessed. And I know this for every single person within the sound of my voice, because it is not just for me. And in knowing this, I know that I belong. I know that this moment, this eternal now, is one that blesses me, and it blesses everyone who is here. And I am grateful for this because I fear less. I am less fear. I am more certainty. I am the goodness of our Creator. And that never changes. This Creator never abandons us, never plays us, got our backs, our sides, just got us. And we know this in these times because there are very few things that are certain outside of these truths. And even so, we look forward to change. We look forward to what is next. What is next? What is next for me to do? And I know that I am led by Spirit, and so I listen for the small, still voice, knowing that it knows no failure. So when I listen, and I have the faith the faith of God, success, prosperity, joy, peace, love, all of these God qualities are mine, for which I'm grateful. I give thanks for all that is, all that my life has been, all that life brings to each and every single one of us. I give thanks for it all because it is always part of the good that works for those who love God. It may not be a good thing, but it works for the good. And so let us use all of this to work for the good, and we affirm it together, and so it is.
And so it is.
You can't stop waiting for love to find you. Look inside your heart. Love's already who you are. So lift up your voice. Let it be heard. Tell me your story. Tell it to me. Don't leave out a word. 'Cause I think I have been there too, and I'm a seeker just like you. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. So it is.
All right. It's our time in our service for our tithes and offerings and our collection. This is an opportunity to be in the flow of divine circulation. We do this early in the service so we can kind of get it out of the way and then be present to all of the rest of our inspiration and message and music. And so all of the ways to give, text to give, our website, the QR code on the screen if you're watching online, participate in that as well. If you are a monthly pledger, thank you so much for being just a part of that regular flow that comes to us and blesses us. We're grateful for all of the sources and spaces from which our good comes, and we know that even more is coming as we participate in our individual lives to circulate good, and we make ourselves available to the universe to say, I want more good in my life. I'm willing to share what is mine to share, and I'm willing to open myself up to receiving more. That's how circulation works. And so we're grateful for all of the circulation that is occurring in this community in this very moment, symbolically and physically, online and in the room. So with this, will you join me in our affirmation as we hold our gifts in our hands? Take in a deep breath. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
I wanna say thank you for the way you gently open my eyes. No matter what I do, your love is always coming through. When I look in any situation and I say yes, I say yes, I say yes to your love. Oh yes, I say yes. Father, I say yes. I say yes to your love. Oh yes, you created me fearlessly and wonderfully to be your instrument. Use me, I surrender in this moment. Let me be your eyes, Let me be your hands, let me be your voice. I'll give you everything I can, and I say yes. Father, I say yes. Surrender, I say yes. I'll give up everything that keeps me from knowing you, knowing the truth. Oh, I say yes. Surrender, I say yes. I lift my hands up to you. Let my body be your vessel. Let my soul be your temple. Yes, yes. Take my hands, do what you will, and take my voice, do what you will, and take my do what you will. Let your love flow through me, and take my hands, everything I am. Take my voice, everything I have, and take my being, my everything, my everything that you've given me. I know you know the plans to prosper me, to give me hope in the future, and I say yes. I surrender, I say yes.
Beautiful. All right, thank you so much. Bring the offering forward. I'm going to bless these gifts, all that they represent in the room, online, and monthly flowing through everything that is represented as the divine flow, moving through in and as the blessing of this community and all that it touches. I know that these gifts go into the heart of this ministry to do good work and circulate back out to each one of us as the message and the inspiration and the vibration in the community. I know that it makes room for those who are yet to discover who we are and what this message is that is resonating with their heart, and they're looking for a place such as this. I know that these gifts make this and so much more possible. And for that, I say thank you. And so it is. All right. Well, how are you all doing? That was a good response. I like that. I like that. Take a deep breath. We're going to breathe together. If you came in a little bit late, we handed out index cards. If you didn't get one, wave your hand. I asked folks to write down anything that's weighing on you, that's just, since the election results, anything that has been bothering you, or feelings or emotions that you've been moving through, to write that on the index cards. And if you've taken the time to do that between that moment and now, I'm going to ask you to, and if you need a moment to still write that, go ahead and take that moment. But for those of you who have written something on a card, if you'd be willing to either pass it to somebody else who's willing to get up and move, or you get up and move, and just come and lay them on the altar. When I say in just a moment, but I just want you to hold that, because what I want to do here is, as I said earlier, there's a great temptation right now to move past the uncomfortable. Do you feel it? And there's a great temptation to go, yeah, it's been uncomfortable. Yeah, I was just really, all discombobulated, and maybe my neighbor or my friend or coworker or family member isn't bothered at all, and I'm bothered about that, right? I was at a fall festival yesterday, and I was just kind of walking around going, these people don't seem disturbed, right? They're just kind of going about their lives, and I was disturbed by that, so I had to do that work. I was like, oh. And we'll talk about that. But so all of that, there's a temptation to leapfrog over the uncomfortable part. And in Christian circles of ministers that I work with, we call that jumping to Resurrection Sunday, right? Without telling the whole story. It's like right now we're in that context, and I know we don't use a lot of the Christian paradigm here, but we're somewhere between the cross and Saturday morning, right? Where it's still dark, and there's still a lot of unknown, but we want to jump to, but wait till you hear the end of the story. We're not there right now. So I want to presence a couple of things. That one, it's okay to be wherever you are in your emotional journey, and that if those feelings are uncomfortable, uneasy, scared, worried, etc., that it's okay. Number two, to presence them, to bring them with us to spiritual community, to not hide from spiritual community, but to bring them with you, literally bring them with you into the room, and then to lay them on the altar, to literally bring them forward, and not to lay them on the altar to dissolve them. I thought about all kinds of ways of doing ritual this morning. I thought there's paper that you can write on, and then you put it in water, and you wish it around, and it just dissolves. The paper just kind of, I was like, nope, we're not doing that. We're not dissolving, There's flash paper, and I was like, oh yeah, let's burn it. Let's write it down and then burn it. I was like, no, we're not going to burn it. We're not going to dissolve it. We're just going to presence it, and we're just going to let it sit here. Okay? So when you're ready, if you would just bring them up and just lay them right here at my feet. And if you're online, those watching online, write them in the chat at this moment. I'll go back, and I can't see it right now. I don't have the live feed in front of me, but I'll take a look at what you're writing, what you're presencing into this space as well. And so I imagine there's a whole range of things here. I can see sad and disappointment. I don't understand. I can fear, and that's without going through and moving them. I could just see a few things popping out. I've called and talked to people in our community this week. People have called me. I've done a couple of live videos. I needed a chair today. I was like, no, I need to take a seat. So we're just living room chat here, okay? And I've done some live chats, and people have shared some things, and so there's all kinds of things going on. There's fear, sadness, disappointment. There's real worry. There's members of our community, and I mean that both locally and broadly, spiritual community, that have identities and ways of expressing that either currently are already. I mean, if you're female, you have an expression that is under threat by all of the healthcare and abortion laws and regulations, etc. If you're LGBTQAI+, those identities have been under threat through legislation for a long time, and that doesn't look like it's slowing down. So on and so forth. And now we're talking mass deportation. We're talking, the deportation of naturalized citizens. We have naturalized citizens in our community. So it just continues. And you might be a person who doesn't have any of those identities. And you might be thinking, well, kind of what's the big deal? We've had elections that we've liked and not liked and lost and won, but we just got to find a way. And our spirituality tells us that we got to, march on and be responsible for our own happy little consciousness. And that's true, and we'll talk about how to do that. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we are in a territory that we've actually never been in before. And I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but I don't want us in spiritual bypass to lose sight of that. I think it's very important. As we're tending to our spirituality, as we're tending to our mental well-being, as we're creating community and having potlucks and being together, that we don't lose sight of that there are things we need to be very, very mindful on. Is that fair? Yeah. So I thought, well, I need some scripture, some story, something to help guide us. So I just want us to notice that these things are with us. We're not getting rid of them, and we're not moving them anywhere. We're just presencing them and just letting them be with us as we journey through this. So I've got Howard Thurman. I've got some other stories from other places, and I wasn't exactly sure where to go, but I found this. So I just invite you to take a deep breath. It's a little story. You probably know it. Piglet, said Pooh. Yes, said Piglet. I'm scared, said Pooh. For a moment, there was silence. Would you like to talk about it? Asked Piglet. When Pooh didn't appear to be saying anything further. I'm just so scared, blurted out Pooh. So anxious, because I don't feel like things are getting better. If anything, I feel like they might be getting worse. People are angry because they're so scared, and they're turning on one another, and there seems to be no clear plan out of here. And I worry about my friends, the people I love. And I wish so much that I could give them all a hug. And oh, Piglet, I'm so scared. And I cannot tell you how much I wish it wasn't so. Piglet was thoughtful as he looked out at the blue skies, peeping between the branches of the trees in the 100-acre wood, and listened to his friend. I'm here, he said simply. I hear you, Pooh, and I'm here. For a moment, Pooh was perplexed. But aren't you going to tell me to not be so silly? That I should stop getting myself into a state and pull myself together? That it's hard for everyone right now? No, said Piglet. No, I'm very much not going to do any of those things. But, Pooh said, Piglet continued, I can't change the world right now. And I'm not going to patronize you with platitudes about how everything will be okay, because I don't know that. What I can do, though, Pooh, is I can make sure that you know that I am here. And that I will always be here to listen and to support you, for you to know that you are heard. I can't make those anxious feelings go away. Not really. But I can promise you that all the time that I have breath left in my body, you won't ever need to feel those anxious feelings alone. And it was a strange thing, because even as Piglet said that, Pooh could feel some of those anxious feelings start to loosen their grip on him. And he could feel one or two of them start to slither away into the forest, cowed by his friend who sat there stolidly next to him. And Pooh thought he had never been more grateful to have Piglet in his life. And so that's what we're doing today, right? And every Sunday. That's what spiritual community is. It's the opportunity to just be with each other when we're feeling those anxious feelings, to bring them to the altar and to just set them down. That passage from Winnie the Pooh, it's the whole book of Job right there. Well, the end part. The lessons out of the book of Job, right? Without all the judgment and terrible stories happening in the beginning. But the whole point of the book of Job was that Job was looking for people who would just sit with him without judgment, without not trying to make it better, without trying to explain it away, without trying to justify who's the good guy and who's the bad guy in the story, but to just be with what is. And so that's our first lesson today, is to learn out of this moment how to be for each other, community, and how to just be with what is. Then we can begin to just look at this moment that we're in. And we can decide, is it a doorway, or is it a hole that we fall into? There's a piece that's circulating online that is credited to a Hopi Indian chief, but it turns out not to be sourced from that individual. And nobody knows really where it came from. But it's still really great wisdom, and it's getting a lot of good circulation, so you may have seen it. But it talks about this idea that you can look at the moment that we're at as a door or a hole, and we could take the opportunity to choose how we're going to go through it. And do we go through it, or do we go into it? And that we should remember on this journey to take care of ourselves, to take care of our home, to take care of our body, to connect with your spiritual home, to take care of yourself. All of those things. And then it talks about this idea that there is a spiritual dimension to the crisis, and there's a social dimension to the crisis. And I think that that's really important to remember, right? That there's the social side, which is policy and structure and governance and who may be in threat or what might be happening, all in those external realms. And then there's the spiritual side, which is how am I connected to that? Where is my center and peace? And where is my consciousness as I'm moving through that, right? And there's a couple of things. One, that we get to choose on the spiritual side, that we get to choose our consciousness, we get to choose how to take care of ourselves. I eventually got to be at the festival and not be mad at everybody that was walking by me. Because joy is a form of resistance, right? Joy, self-care and joy. Like we have to be in this moment strong, healthy, balanced in sound mind and sound hearts, balanced in spirit, mind, and body, healthy beings, so that we can have the strength and the wherewithal to be community for each other and to show up to whatever's happening. If things unfold in a certain way and some community is threatened, or we need to resist in some way, or whatever it is, right? And we're all a mess and aren't eating healthy and aren't taking care of ourselves, then we're not going to be very useful, right? So self-care is going to be really important in this, not only as a form of resistance, but also as a form of sort of preparation, if you will. When it comes to this dance and our monthly theme, I want to talk about gratitude and abundance and all these beautiful things that we're supposed to be talking about right now in this month. What we know is that in our tradition, in the way we think and approach spiritually, is that there is no scarcity, right? There's no shortage. The universe is an abundant space. There's no lack of love, compassion, and joy in the world. And that we're connected to that there is not only enough, but there's more than enough. And that you and I, are instruments of the grace of God. We're here to be the portal through which that abundance flows. And so in this moment, we are called to be, as I said in one of my videos this week, lavish with our joy and our gratitude, lavish with our generosity, lavish with, when you go, if you go to Starbucks or anywhere else and be lavish with your opportunity to open the door for somebody else, or to smile and say their name, and to just be overflowing with it in abundance of that energy, because it's so needed right now, right? And so that is where I'm going to just leave our, but we're talking about abundance and all those things today. That's how. And lavish with our grace, right? That grace, that we give each other space and grace to be with whatever emotions are with us, to grace to be with ourselves, grace to be with our neighbors, grace to lean in and to learn from our neighbors and our family and our friends. Well, perhaps there are those in my circle who didn't vote the way I did, or are happy about the outcome. And as somebody shared with us in one of our classes here, their neighbor, it does not share the same political views, but they know that neighbor to be a very gracious and wonderful person who helps bring in her trash every day, or her trash can every week, because she lives, the driveway is on an incline, and has been, great neighbors, and right. So to lean into those things and get past the judgments and say, well, why does my neighbor think differently than I do about that? And can we find the space where we can still be neighborly and be in that lavish generosity and kindness with each other, right? And then ultimately, this idea that we have the inner work to do, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Joel Goldsmith says this: freedom is not a condition of the government. Freedom is a condition of the soul, right? Freedom is not a condition of the government, it's a condition of the soul. And so the government, of course, the structure, the policy, the environment that we find ourselves in, we talk about belonging here as a key component to our spirituality, and belonging has three dimensions to it. There's internal belonging. There's the idea that says you belong because you are. You belong because you exist. You belong because you have breath in your body. You belong because you, as Ernest Holmes would say, you belong to the universe in which you live. You're a divine idea in the mind of God. You belong, and nothing or no one can ever take that away from you. That is the internal spiritual idea of our universal belonging. And that not only do I belong, but everyone belongs, because everything and everyone is connected to that same spirit and that same energy, and is a byproduct of that same infinite intelligence of the universe. Then there is, the third one is structural. The second one is, forgetting the specific name that we use in our class, but it is basically community belonging. As I belong to this group, I belong because I'm this gender, or because I'm identify as this, or because I, root for this team, or right, there's affinity belonging that is based on different circumstances and conditions. And we're called to build bridges in those sectors of belonging, so that while we belong to one group, it doesn't exclude us from having safe passage in other groups, right? And that it's okay to have those various affinity kind of community types of belonging. And then the third layer out, going from the inside out, the largest layer is structural belonging. And structural belonging is like how we have set up our world and our society, in which we move and we can see, based on policies and structures and ways of being and ways of creating community together, who belongs and who doesn't. And to become more mindful of that, and to that's where the real work in public policy and all of that is to create space of belonging. You know, this place, for example, as a structure was created very intentionally. You see the ramp on this side, right? If somebody has a wheelchair, they say, well, I belong on the platform. I can participate because the physical space says that I belong, right? As opposed to if that wasn't here, right? The bathrooms, so on and so forth. So that's what structural belonging is. And it's all three of those together, right? So the freedom that the government creates is about that structural belonging. And we ought to be very mindful about how we are proceeding in our next phase with that. But meanwhile, on the spiritual side, the internal awareness of freedom as a condition of the soul, a freedom that no one can take from me. I was reading Howard Thurman. Oh, God bless Howard Thurman right now. God bless Howard Thurman right now. You know, Howard Thurman was a great inspiration to the civil rights movement, to Dr. King and to others, you know, right here at Morehouse in Atlanta. But he was a mystic. He was a spiritual mystic. And he did not engage externally in the civil rights movement in the way that Dr. King and others did. And he often got flack about that. You know, they would say, but, you know, you're just teaching and you're doing your thing, but you know, we need you kind of like in the streets. And he was like, that is not mine. Mine is to do this inner work and to fuel and feed those who are doing that work so that they know where they're coming from, right? And so he has this is a collection of writings that he did through his church in San Francisco on the soul, on democracy and the soul of America. And it's actually the second one I have marked. He says this about freedom. There is this other aspect of freedom, he says, that belongs in any discussion about it. And that is that freedom is my own responsibility for my own reaction to events, to the events, the forces, and the influences that impinge upon my life that are not responsive to my will, however good that will may be. Impersonal forces that don't even know that I, as an individual, exist, that I am here. But I must deal with them at the point at which they touch my life. And I can say, you see, that it is not my fault that the forces alien to my mind and spirit create this situation that results in my predicament. True, this may be, but I am not relieved if I would be free. I must take the responsibility for how I mark my word. How? I must take responsibility for how, mark my word, he says, how I react to the forces that impinge upon my life. Forces that are not responsive to my will, my desire, my ambition, my dreams, my hopes. Forces that don't know that I am here. But I know that I am here. And I decide whether I will say yes or no and make it hold. This is indeed a free man. This is indeed what freedom means. And this is anticipated in the genius of the dogma of freedom as a manifestation of the soul of America, born in what to me is one of the greatest of the great experiments in human relations. And so he's speaking of this same idea that there may be forces that are impinged upon us that we didn't create or that don't acknowledge our existence or affirm our identity or whatever it may be, and we must deal with them in the places where they touch our lives. And we must also simultaneously know that there is a freedom within me that those things cannot touch. I still have to deal with where that thing touches my life. But I get to decide the place from which I come, inside. Does that make sense? And so I imagine that, as I said, I don't know. I really don't. and I want to be authentic with you because I really believe in building authentic spiritual community and spaces. We've not been here before as a country. We've been close, perhaps, at times, but there are certain aspects of this that are definitely new territory. I imagine there may be potentially darker days ahead. I can't say for certain. But we will travel that road together. And every once in a while, as I imagine how we travel that road together as community, we may need to look up and to remember the road that we're traveling on and remind ourselves that we're traveling on roads that were paved by those that came before us, especially here in Atlanta. We may need to call out the names of the streets and remember that the roads that we're traveling are paved by those that came before us. We may need to remember that we're driving down John Lewis Freedom Parkway. Now, y'all didn't hear me. Maybe it's the stool that's getting in the way. I need to stand up and preach this part. We may need to remember that we're driving on Donald Lee Holloway Parkway. We may need to remember that we're driving down Hamilton E. Holmes Drive. Some of you don't even know these names. I've done my research. Ivan Allen Jr. Boulevard, Jesse Hill Drive, John Wesley Dobbs Avenue, Ralph Abernathy Expressway, Maynard Jackson International Airport. Come on, somebody. We need to remember that the road that we are on has been paved by those who have fought for this moment, and that we remember our divine light, and we remember who we are. We remember the light that is within us, and we remember that it is coming together in community. It is coming together to work hard together. It's coming together to affirm each other. It's coming together to do these things. Return again to Howard Thurman. He says, "Let us not be so overwhelmed by the apparent collapse of the worlds around us that we don't do the things that are needful, that will redeem our own soul, and perhaps set up the kind of creative and spiritual process that may save the world, the pursuit of happiness." It also comes from his sermons and essays on democracy and the soul of America. It's a different sermon, and it's the focus of the sermon is the pursuit of happiness, right? Let us not forget that we get to pursue our happiness, we get to pursue our joy, we get to pursue our freedom, we get to pursue that divinity within you that comes from that abundant nature that says you have a right to be here, you have a right to be free, you have a right to be healthy and whole, you have a right to be the full God-ordained self that you are, in joy and in bliss and in all of the things that it means, and all of the things that we study in New Thought. You have a right to that. Pursue it. And in pursuing it, we shine the light into the forces that would have it be otherwise. And we say, and then we force upon the social condition the reconciliation of you must wrestle with this, the fact that these beings are here and they are shining their light. And despite your capacity to diminish or to relinquish or to strip rights away or to do whatever it is, whatever is coming, regardless of one's capacity to do that, you must reconcile with the fact that these beings are here. And this light is shining, right? Because it is dependent upon us to follow that inner guidance. It's dependent upon us to so deeply know that divine light. The Israelites in the Torah, in the sacred Jewish text, tell a story. There's a story of the Israelites who went to the prophet Samuel and they asked for a king to rule over them. And Samuel said, "You don't need a king. You've got God." Let me say that again. You don't need a king. You've got God. And the people said, "Give us a king." We want a king, right? We want a king to rule over us and tell us what to do and all of this stuff. And Samuel went to God and he said, God, I got a problem. These folks have forgotten who you are. And they're not mad at me, but they keep worshiping these false idols and they want a king. And God said, well, tell them who I am. And Samuel said, well, I've done that. Now I'm paraphrasing, but you can go look it up. It's 1 Samuel 8. And so Samuel tells them. And so God says, well, tell them what's going to happen when they get their king. And don't leave anything out. And so Samuel goes and he tells the people. He says, okay, well, I'm the prophet. I'm the messenger of God. He says, I got to let you know. If you really want a king like the other nations have, then this is what's going to happen. This king is going to make you his subject, and he's going to, put the men into war, and he's going to put the women to work like this, and he's going to take your land, and he's going to tax you, and he's going to do all of these things. It's very specific. It's all in there. Taxation and the subjugation and the removal of rights and all of this stuff. All of these things are going to happen. And the people said, give us a king. We want a king just like all the other nations have kings. And so then again, Samuel says, well, I don't know what to do. And God says, well, then give them a king. I will give them a king. If that's what they want, they'll get what they asked for. And then Hebrew scripture goes on, and they go through King David and so on and so forth. And all of that lead to lessons about leaning on our inner wisdom, that we don't need to externalize our power, that we need to rely on the source of divinity that is within us. But if we choose to externalize it and say we want this, then the law of consciousness says, well, then that's what you'll get. Right? And collectively, right now, in this moment, we said the law of consciousness in the election has said what it has said, and so the lessons will be what they will be until there's enough of a collective consciousness to choose otherwise. That's how it works. Elections are always a reflection of collective consciousness, right? And so there we are. But in the midst of all of that, remember that the civil rights movement grew under much worse conditions than we have now, currently. And we don't know whether that's how much that will change, but a resistance is already building up. There's governors that have said we're not going to participate, not going to use our National Guard for this, that, or the other. But it was communities coming together and saying, well, we'll step in and we'll provide the education, we'll provide the health care, we'll provide the Black Panthers came forward. The Black Panthers weren't a scary militant group. They were providing meals at schools, right? They were providing voter protection and access to the polls and community education and so on and so forth. And so we ought to be thinking about now, there's a graphic. I don't know if we can bring up the graphic of, sorry, I know I haven't gone through all the slides. I don't know that I'll get to all of them because I'm rambling all over the place. But this is from a website called socialchangemap.com. I'd invite you to bookmark it on your browser, on your phone, and begin to examine it and take a look at it. What it talks about is social change, and we tend to think about, what I talk about in my book, Freedom from Discord, and talking about, social justice and advocacy, and liberation theology. We tend to think that has to show up a specific way. And what this model is showing is and reminding us what has always been true. It was true in the civil rights movement, Dr. King and others who said, there are those who march, there are those who make the sandwiches, right? When you come home from the march, there's got to be water and food to eat and all of those things. And so this is a model that talks about these different roles, and it takes all of it: storytellers, healers, disruptors, caregivers, builders. And you can, on the website, you can go into these and see how they're defined. Visionaries, frontline responders, experimenters, weavers, guides. What might your role be as we move forward? It may not look like somebody else's, but it'll look like what is yours to do. Take a deep breath. My famous one to close with, without liberation, without community, there is no liberation, Audre Lorde. There is a story, if we can, where are my yarn people at? Okay, good. If we want to start that. Parker Palmer, anybody know the Parker Palmer? Great wisdom, Quaker, great writer, wonderful book called A Hidden Wholeness. And in there he tells a story, and I've used this in our leadership classes from time to time. And he says, there was a time when farmers of the Great Plains and also of the upper Midwest, at the first sign of a blizzard, would run a rope from the back door of the house to the outhouse barn. Because they all knew stories of people who had wandered off and been frozen to death, having lost sight of their home in the whiteout while still in their own backyards. Today, we live in a blizzard of another sort. It swirls around us as economic injustice, ecological ruin, physical and spiritual violence, and their inevitable outcome, war. It swirls within us as fear and frenzy, greed and deceit, indifference to the suffering of others. And we all know stories of people who have wandered off into this madness and been separated from their own souls, losing their moral bearings, even their moral lives. They make headlines because they take so many innocent people down with them. And so today, as a spiritual community, we're running a rope from the center of our community through our people, so that we can say as a community, as Scripture says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves, but a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. If you look at any rope of a ship and look at it carefully, it is the intertwining of many layers and strands of rope twisted together to make a stronger connection. Do we have one on this side? It's coming. Okay. Oh, I see. It's already done. And so we're bringing all the strands together that run through our community, whether you are gay or straight or trans or black or white, whether you are young or old, all of the identities and forms that make up Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, both online, in person, throughout our history. We have come together from many different places, and we continue to come together from many different places. Yes, thank you. And we're going to begin to strand this together so that it becomes stronger, as the Scripture would indicate. One may break by its own, 2 can defend themselves, but a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. I'm so glad I color coordinated today. I wear these colors all the time. That's easy. And so this is spiritual community. I want you to know that, as I said before, I don't know what's going to happen next. I wish I could say I'm being way too dramatic, and it's not going to be anything like any of our worst fears. And I truly pray and hope that that is the case. And it may not be for some, in some places of our community, collectively. And should and when that day comes, I want you to know that there's a cord that you can follow through this, the poetry of the metaphor is not lost on me, as Parker Palmer calls it, this blizzard, this whiteout. I'm just going to leave that right there. Through this whiteout, there is a rope that you can hold on to. It'll pull you back to this spiritual community and this place that says you belong, this place that affirms your identity, this place that knows that you are a divine being, that you are here to be a vehicle of grace, that you are here to be a vehicle and a divine expression of wholeness and love and truth and beauty, and to have all of the good things that life would have you have in peace and prosperity and health and relationship and finances and every aspect of your being, to be affirmed and uplifted and celebrated everywhere that you go, that is your divine destiny. And this rope is here to remind us of that, to pull us in, to follow it back from whatever storm might be happening on the outside, and to feel that tug and say, I've got you. When it's Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or Monday or Sunday night and you've already forgotten because something came across the news or something's happening in the world, you feel that tug. And that tug says, I've got you. Just follow the rope back. You're not lost. You're not lost. You're with community. And we've got each other. And whatever comes next, we will be here together. Amen? Amen. Let me have our practitioners come forward. If you can, get untied and jump through and step over. Yes. We'll try to not make it too complicated. And online as well, this rope reaches out to you and connects to our SLCA family all across the country. Take a deep breath. So in this moment, in this eternal now moment, which is the only moment that there ever really is, this breath reminds me that all is well. My body is receiving everything that it needs in this moment to assimilate and to articulate and to integrate into the divine expression of my being, health and vitality and presence. It says, I am here. I am now. And in this moment, all my needs are met. God is all that there is. And my awareness is saturated into the divine presence. And as I breathe that into my being, let it infuse every cell of my body. Then I'm able to walk into the world fully anchored in the awareness that God is all that there is, despite any appearance otherwise. I'm able to walk into my finances, knowing that I am an abundant creature, that I am infinitely available for the divine flow of good and more good, regardless of any circumstance that might say otherwise. I'm a divine being that is loved and cared for and nurtured within the bosom of the divine, expressed in divine beauty and nurtured and held in wholeness, regardless of any external circumstance that may say otherwise. I am that which God is. God is that which I am, regardless of any external circumstances that may say otherwise. And as I anchor into the truth and the awareness of this divine consciousness, it flows out from me. And the external begins to shift and change, and I begin to see all of the places and spaces and ways in which the divine within me is reflected back to me in my neighbor, in my country, in my world, in my community, in my spiritual community. All of the ways in which I am held in safety and love and affirmation. And I walk through any place that might feel otherwise, knowing that the infinite has got my back, knowing that the infinite strengthens and resides within me, and that indeed I belong to the universe in which I live, whole, perfect, and complete. And so I affirm this for myself, for all beings within the sound of my voice, for all identities and aspects of our divine community. I affirm this as divine health that is circulating through all members of our community. We have prayer requests that have come in. Dorelia Taylor, Michael Preston's mother, is moving through a healing right now. If there's a prayer request that you have on your heart, you can put it in the chat, a name or condition or place. All of those names that are appearing, all of those things that are appearing in the chat, I know right now, God is there present. I know that our own beloved Lexa continues to take cleansing, healing deep breaths as every cell of her body continues to reveal divine wholeness. I know this is the truth for every individual that is in need of physical healing. I know this is the divine truth for every individual who is looking for divine right employment or divine guidance in relationship or any other external thing that we walked in wondering about. God is there. Spirit is in the midst. And there's a divine right order and action taking place. And a community that holds us all together. For this and more, I'm truly grateful and thankful as I release these words, knowing that it is done, good and very good, and ours to now experience as our reality. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you, Reverend David. That's a lot to consider, isn't it? I see a lot of newcomers here today, and I want to invite you in this room to join us and our members downstairs for a bite to eat, okay? Please don't leave. I know we have some hugging to do, and we've got some, we want to touch base with you. So know that you are welcome to join us downstairs for some refreshments before you leave this afternoon. And we want to love on you, okay? So thank you for coming. And let's celebrate with song, shall we? Let's close with this vision that we know to be true, a world that works for everyone. Stand as it feels comfortable to do so. All beings are expressions of God. Yes, yes, get that energy moving. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. Take it up. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We see a world that works for everyone. Yes, we do. We see a world that works for everyone. 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 Yeah, look around the room. Yeah, everyone. 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 Thank you to Afisidichi Nana. Thank you for the beautiful dance. Thank you, Reverend David. Be well, everyone. See you downstairs.